This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman and Riley Smith. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I am Averie Haskell. Today is Tuesday, May 24th, 2022. We are so glad you can join us. In today's show, Riley finishes his discussion with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Glisan from last week. Dustin talks with Senator Joni Ernst about the Biden administration's 30x30 plan, and as always, we take a look at the ag weather outlook. But first, let's kick it over to Riley for our ag market recap.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Well, it's time now to take a look at how those markets closed today, and for that we go to Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. First up, Jacob, how are we doing today?
Well, Riley, waiting for the markets to close here. We finally got them closed, and I think it's kind of a breath of fresh air for everybody. I had the corn market down significantly today. We were down in double digits across the whole complex of corn. New crop corn down about 14 cents. Traded as low as 7.14 today in the December contract. We did bounce off those lows a dime. Closed the market around 7.24 area. Same with the old crop corn. 7.70 was where we settled, but again, 8 cents off the low. So a little bit of breath of fresh air as we came into the last part of the trading day. In the wheat market, that was the story right now. We're 35 cents lower Chicago at the close, 38 cents lower in Kansas City. You got Minneapolis spring wheat that was only down 23 cents, and when you're only down 23 cents, that's a rough day. Soybeans, kind of the only green spot in there. The old crop soybeans, a nickel higher. And if you called your local elevators and talked basis on old crop beans, you understand why that's stronger here. 16.92 is where we settled out, and the new crop beans down 2 cents at 15.16. You can blame a lot of things on this marketplace today being so negative. Major factors of just some benign weather, just not a lot out there to scare the market right now as far as planting. We are starting to see some of these planters roll up in the northern part of the Corn Belt. How much is going in and how far do we get? That's the big question right now. But some really information all across. But there's rumors of Russian wheat hitting the export market through their Russia, Ukrainian, wherever it came from, originated from, hitting the Black Sea ports and getting exported. And so that's been a little bit of negative on the news. Also, some rains in the higher plains there and get the trade thinking that maybe that could help some of these poor crop conditions that we've been seeing.
Right, and we actually saw a pretty big surge in corn planting at the very least. They're only like 5 or 7% behind what the average is. And is that having a big effect on the markets too, kind of driving that price lower, or is corn really being drugged down a lot by those much lower wheat prices?
The answer to that question, Riley, is yes. In both cases, I think that your planning number was a little bit bigger than expected, and we all hear the talk about how much technology is advanced, and once the opportunity arises, we can pound a corn crop in pretty quick. And I think that'll be the same case up in the northern part of the belt. The problem is how far can you get? How much does go in before it's just too late? And so we're expecting to get 98% of the planting done that we were expecting. Just where does that number lie? A small percentage goes a long way when you're talking about 90 million potential acres. That is something that as it gets going, we expect to see a little bit of pressure on the market. The bull market needs to have a new story here pretty quick to continue to push us on up. I mean, this is a futures market, right? So we're pricing in the what if. The what if is trying to get priced in. That's what the markets are doing. And I think as you see potential good yields coming along and more going in the ground, it does pressure it off a little bit. But I think as we go forward, it's going to go to weather. You'll still going to remain talk weather, and it'll be a lot of questions about what actually got planted, what got moved around up there. And as you talk to people, they're rolling, they're excited to be doing something. But the fear is still there for them of, getting that in before their final plant date. And if they don't get in and what they're not going to get in, what are they going to go to? There's guys that I talked to today that are still trying to make those decisions, as they're driving, as they are planting corn. I think your pressure from the potential sale of corn to China from Brazil. There's rumors that they bought 200 to 400 million metric ton today from Brazil. We do know that they were getting provisions where they can actually buy Brazilian corn, but now if an actual sale was made yet or not, we don't have any facts on that yet.
All right, and what are we seeing on the other side of the marketplace in the livestock complex today?
Well, it's feeder cattle with the corn being down was up logically, like we've been seeing. Anytime we see a big dip in the corn, we've seen the feeder cattle come up. The on-feed report the other day was viewed a little bit negative, but not didn't really hammer the markets down. We've seen quite a bit of stableness in the cattle. So the hog market actually was a little bit, I would say, been impressive here over the last 2 weeks, and we had another $1.30 off there. I guess I would say it's pretty quiet here in your hog and live cattle. Feeder cattle got a little excited today seeing the corn off as much as it was.
Right, and we're really getting to grilling season at this point, and hopefully we're going to see that demand really start to pick up here soon. Are we going to see that factor into the marketplace yet to see?
Well, I think the one thing that you have noticed a little bit is a little bit of discrepancy between your select and your choice price. The spread's up to about $20 now. So we've seen such a dip in the cutout in the cutouts there as we go through the grilling season. So kind of a non-seasonal pattern going, that you finally started to see the select turn back up, or your choice turn back up and separate itself a little bit. Cold storage this last week, we were increased our red meat and beef percentage there, but it really wasn't that negative. I would consider it more like a neutral report. But prices of the choice back up here, I think personally is going to do anything but help us. The problem that we have right now is following the stock market. I mean, every time we see lower GDP numbers and we see a slower growth in our, or even a decrease in our economy, that's not set up very well for them to buy our higher quality meats. It's what they say on TV this morning, buying hamburgers and selling steaks, but we just really hope the global economy is there to take those higher cuts off our hands.
All right, Jacob. Well, lots of great information today for those of our listeners and watchers who would like to learn more, especially from the team at agmarket.net. How can they get in touch?
I think we got a good opportunity for you to get to know what we think and what we're doing. If you just go to our website there at agmarket.net, you can sign up for our 30-day free trial and get all of our information to us. And right now is a very pivotal time in your marketing plan. And if you want to look at some of these different strategies as far as the flexibility that you can put yourself in, just give us a call. You'll find plenty of numbers on there. You can find me on the look at our team. So yeah, I look forward to talking to you. Thanks, guys.
That again was Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. We'll go ahead and take a look at how those closing market prices settled. That's courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. July corn down 14.5 at 771 3/4. December corn down 13 3/4 at 725 1/4. July soybeans up 6 even at 16.93 even. November soybeans down 1 1/4 at 15.17 1/2. Soybean meal up 3.50 at 421.60. Soybean oil down 23 cents at 77.73. Chicago wheat down 35 1/4 at 11.54 3/4. Minneapolis spring wheat down 23 even at 12.75 1/2. Kansas City hard red wheat down 38 3/4 at 12.37 3/4. July oats up 44.5 at 6.74 1/4. On the Merc, June live cattle down a nickel at 132.72. Feeder cattle up $1.05 at 154.50. Lean hogs down 135 at 109.02. Pork cutouts down $1.22 at 114.67, and Class 3 milk down 32 cents at 24.15. And that was a check of the Ag Market Recap here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I'll finish up my discussion from last week with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Last week, I started my discussion with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Glisan about the weekly Drought Monitor report. Today, we're finishing that discussion by talking about what things farmers could see for the rest of the crop year. Right, and with how the weather's looking so far, obviously, we have a good idea of what we'd like to see in the near future, what we want to see. But let's go over again. We talked about this last time. Just what farmers should want to see from the weather conditions moving forward.
Well, we'd want to see timely rainfalls like we did last year. We were planting into drier soils last year. We had an excellent planting window. We planted early. Given our March temperatures were 5 to 6 degrees above average, soil temperatures got above that 50-degree threshold, and we had drier than normal conditions. Last April was an inch and a half below average. So drier conditions, warmer conditions, we got rolling early and planted fast. This year we had the weather delays, colder temperatures, wetter conditions. You walk a fine line between getting planted late, but also having a reservoir of water available if we do get dry like we did last year. I think farmers would like to see full planted and then turn the faucet on, get those timely rainfalls, keep those temperatures near normal. If we do look at the seasonal outlooks for June, July, and August, we do see an elevated signal for warmer temperatures. Now we will see updated monthly and seasonal outlooks, in fact, later today. And then we'll have those final outlooks at the end of the month. So those will give us an idea of where we're moving in terms of summer. But again, soil temperatures and the increase in soil moisture that we've seen recently will have some impact on how those outlooks pan out.
Right, and obviously a lot of farmers have been able to take advantage of the fairly cooperative weather last week. Warmer temperatures, a little drier, though. We had patches of moisture throughout there. So with most of this crop in the ground, and obviously the potential for a lot of availability in the export markets this year with the invasion in Ukraine and lower crop production in South America, are we still looking pretty good for being able to take advantage of that and having enough crop to get those prices?
I think so. So you look at our extension agronomists and experts up at Iowa State, Dr. Mark Licht, had mentioned that we probably are not on our highest yield potential given the delay in planting. But again, if you look at last year and how dry we were as we got planted and through the growing season, seeing those timely rainfalls and those cooler temperatures when we needed, we had the potential for smaller yields last year. But when we got harvested and we saw those yields, bin buster yields, excellent yields for the conditions that we planted in, the potential this year is out there. So if the weather cooperates with us, we could see some good results in the fall.
All right, and as we wrap up here, do you have any advice for farmers who are keeping an eye on those weather conditions and just thinking forward about what this crop could look like?
Oh, farmers are so intuitive when it comes to weather. As I mentioned last time, I talk with them on a daily basis. I learn something new every time I talk to a farmer out there. So in terms of drought or wetness, what farmers are seeing out in their fields on a local basis, send those observations to me. My email is justin.glisan, Glisan, at iowaagriculture.gov. Give me a call. I'm always interested in those observations. I do field scouting all the time, especially this time of year, to get a better handle on what we're seeing in terms of precipitation, surpluses or deficits. But definitely, I would. Those observations do help us do a better job for our farmers and stakeholders.
All right, Justin. Well, it was great chatting with you today. We always enjoy this chat. For those farmers, obviously you just gave a good amount of contact information right there. Is that the best way for farmers to get a hold of you, or are there any other ways?
My phone number in the office is 515-281-8981, or Google Iowa Climatology Bureau. It'll bring you to the Iowa Department of Agriculture's Climatology Bureau website. any kind of information that you would want, records, old reports, historical reports, current conditions, climatological observations, the outlooks, the drought monitor, soil moisture, soil temperature, anything you'd like, you'll find my contact information on that website as well.
All right, Justin, great to talk to you today, and we hope to chat with you again soon.
Thanks, Riley.
That again was Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan. Well, while we're talking about the weather, how about we take a look at that ag weather outlook? Well, the rain has finally started to appear here in Des Moines, and it looks like rain is going to be the name of the game for the next few days at least. Let's take a look at what the National Weather Service has in store for the next 24 hours. As you can see here from the National Weather Service, those nice, pleasant spring temps will persist this week. Today, rain will take over the skies with temps ranging from 54 to 71. Tonight, showers will continue statewide. Lows overnight should range from 47 to 56. And tomorrow, showers across the state again. Highs will range from 54 to 75. Looking at the affiliate weather map right now, as you can see for tomorrow, Cherokee will be rainy with a high of 54. Shenandoah also looking to be rainy with a high around 55. Des Moines rainy as well and a high of 66. Albia rainy and 70. Waterloo once again rainy and 66. And Clinton, big surprise, will be rainy with a high of 75. For more detailed forecasts in your part of the state, check with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook. When we come back, Averie will help wrap up the show as Dustin brings us his conversation with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst. This is Ag Matters PM. As we approach planting season, make sure you stay safe and share the road with your local farmers. Slow-moving tractors with large planters occupy a lot of space on the road, so stay patient and follow at a distance of around 50 feet. You should never, ever try to pass them at a bridge, intersection, hill, or curve. It's far better than putting yourself or someone else at risk. So please, stay safe and remember to tip your hat to your local farmer this planting season. This message was brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Averie Haskell. If you are not familiar with the Biden administration's 30 by 30 plan, it calls for having 30% of American land in conservation by 2030. While it sounds noble and protecting land is a good way to help our environment, there isn't a whole lot of clarity of just where those lands are coming from. Dustin had the chance to talk with Senator Joni Ernst about the topic, and she said she's looking forward to some clarification.
Let's talk first about the 30 by 30 plan. Let's first talk about what it's supposed to be, and then we'll get into what's going on with it.
Right. This bill, and it's being called the 30 by 30. It's actually an action that's being done by the administration under President Joe Biden. It's called America the Beautiful. And doesn't that sound like a great thing to support? But when you dive into what this action actually does, it sets aside 30% of America's land in conservation, no use, by the year 2030. And the question is, how is this going to be achieved? How is the federal government going to acquire this land to set it aside? What programs are they going to force upon Americans? We really don't know the implications, of course, to our farmers and our Iowa families, our Iowa businesses.
You know, and it sounds interesting. It almost sounds like a beefed up CRP program for what we're used to, hearing here in rural America. But is it something similar to the government is going to take control and ownership of the land? What's the situation there that you understand?
Well, that's a good question, Dustin, because they haven't been specific about how they would achieve this. Now, when we questioned Secretary Vilsack of the USDA almost a year ago now, when this was still being floated out there as a vague idea, when Senator Grassley and I questioned him about this, he said it would be like CRP. But how do you voluntarily get that many people? Because again, it's 30% of America's lands into a CRP type program. And let me remind you that CRP has a distinct focus of setting aside those acres that are extremely vulnerable, maybe those that are subject to erosion, non-producing. So there is a specific reason for CRP, but it just sounds like the federal government just wants to set aside 30% of America's lands, regardless of what type of land it is. And my question then is, if they can't voluntarily get that much land set aside, how are they going to acquire that land? Will they do it through other rules and regulations like WOTUS, where they basically tell our farmers, I'm sorry, this falls under a definition of a water of the U.S. You can't use this land. So that's what I'm afraid of. And again, we don't know exactly how this is going to come down, because the federal government has been very sketchy about how they want to achieve this.
You know, it's also interesting. I know with you sitting on the Senate Ag Committee, you understand that the CRP program has been an interesting program, to say the least. I mean, when the years are good and the rates are good, you see a lot of land sometimes going in that maybe shouldn't have gone in. And then you'll see land that maybe should have gone in, not get the chance. And then it kind of flip-flops back and forth. But is the plan, you think, to also possibly, you know, I know you were still trying to figure this all out, but obviously this all comes back to compensation for the acres. And what happens if the market value of the compensation falls below, you know, what it would be worth producing, you know, because the market's always moving, you know. And what does that mean if farmers say, hey, you know what, I got 60 acres in this program, but now that's 60 more acres I could be raising crops on right now?
Exactly. And that is a fair point, because people will, over periods of time, move their land in or out of production. And the question would be then, if you're taking, you know, really valuable, good quality land and putting it into this type of program, we will see reduced production. And of course, I already get calls from our young or beginning farmers, those that want to engage in farming, stating that they can't access farmland because so much of it has been put into CRP. So there's a lot of concerns that I have about what may or may not transpire with this 30 by 30 rule that President Biden is trying to force upon Americans. And we certainly need to go through the public comment period. And we are pressing the administration on this issue. But certainly Americans should have a say in their land and how that land is managed. So I do hope the administration will allow for public comment. But again, I think we're treading in very difficult water here, where we have a federal government that's really pressing what they believe should be done to land upon our farmers and ranchers.
And I know that's a concern you've raised, is about making sure that there is a proper comment period. What's the situation with that concern?
Well, we know that the federal government, through various rules, requires a 30-day comment period, and we haven't seen that yet for this particular rule. So we're going to continue pressing the administration. We absolutely must hear from our constituents on this issue, because, you know, Iowa is a high-producing state. We're a huge agricultural state. We see many other states that will be in similar situations, whether they're cattle producing, row crop producing, you name it. All of us could be impacted by this 30 by 30 rule. We may have unwittingly created a situation where the federal government could come in and say, I'm sorry, cattle ranchers, but you can't graze cattle on this land, or farmers, sorry, federal government says we had to set aside 30% of land, so now you can't farm it. We just have to be very, very careful about that. I don't like what the Biden administration is doing through this particular rule. I think it's wonderful if people want to enter into conservation programs on their own, making their own decisions. But again, we don't know that, because again, we just have no idea how they're going to achieve this 30 by 30.
Thanks, Dustin. And that is it for today's episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can find our video content and previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget our free twice daily market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I am Averie Haskell. On behalf of Riley Smith and Dustin Hoffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.